They say age ain't nothing but a number, and actors like Samuel L. Jackson and Angela Bassett are living proof. These black icons, well over 70, continue to dominate the screen with their talent, grace, and wisdom, inspiring a new generation of performers. From drama to comedy, they steal the show with their charisma and exceptional skills. Let's celebrate some of the most influential black actors from the 1960s and 1970s and see how they are doing today in 2024. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's go. Number 1. Smokey Robinson. The first and one of the greatest talents to ever record for the fabled Motown label, Grammy winner Smokey Robinson was a singer, songwriter, and music executive who, as part of the Miracles, produced some of the greatest songs of the 1960s, from Shop Around and Mickey's Monkey to such elegant statements of love as Ooh, Baby, Baby, I Second That Emotion, and Tears of a Clown. Robinson's unmistakably smooth, heartfelt tenor was the emotional linchpin of the songs, which transcended racial barriers by becoming hits on the white-dominated pop charts of the time. As vice president of Motown, Robinson was also responsible for crafting the careers of such legendary acts as The Temptations and Marvin Gaye, and he penned countless hits for them and other artists that became classics of soul and R&B. Robinson's high, warm tenor was perfect for the romantic ballads that he wrote for the group. One of the music industry's most prolific songwriters, Robinson was also such an imaginative one that Bob Dylan once called him America's greatest living poet. Although they could also do hard, driving dance records. Even after leaving the Miracles in 1972, Smokey Robinson didn't slow down. He became a big influence on a new kind of music called urban contemporary. Think smooth grooves and catchy tunes. Songs like Cruisin' and One Heartbeat are great examples. Fans and magazines have always considered Smokey a legend, both for his time with the Miracles and his solo career. And here's something cool. Since late 2023, Smokey Robinson has his own Sirius XM channel called Smokey's Soul Town. It plays classic R&B and soul hits from the 50s to the 80s. Smokey even shows up sometimes to share stories about his Motown days, his favorite artists, and of course his favorite songs from that era. He is now 84 years old. Number 2. Delroy Lindo. Delroy Lindo started out acting on stage, and everyone knew he was a super talented performer. He had a knack for playing characters who could be both really intense and really charming, even if they were kind of bad guys. This skill came in handy when he landed roles in movies like Clockers and Get Shorty in the mid-90s. People first saw Delroy on the big screen in Spike Lee's movie Malcolm X. Spike must have been impressed because he cast Delroy in a few more films, letting him show off his acting range. In Crooklyn, Delroy played a dad who loved his family, but maybe didn't always make the best choices. In Clockers, he was a smooth-talking drug dealer. After Get Shorty, Hollywood sometimes wanted Delroy to play the same kind of character over and over again. But Delroy wasn't having it. He broke out of that mold by taking on roles based on real people, like baseball legend Satchel Paige and explorer Matthew Henson. He even played Supreme Court nominee Clarence Thomas in a TV movie. Finally, in 2017, he landed a role on a legal drama called The Good Fight, that's still going strong today. No matter what kind of role he takes on, Delroy Lindo always brings his A game. That's why he's such a respected actor. He is now 71 years old. Number 3. Quincy Jones. Quincy Jones is a music legend. For the past 50 years, he's been a giant in the industry, working on all sides of music, from playing the trumpet to producing hit songs. He's worked with everyone from famous jazz musicians like Miles Davis to pop stars like Michael Jackson. Quincy started young, playing trumpet like a pro when he was still a teenager. In the 50s, he helped arrange songs for other musicians, especially during the jazz craze. By the 60s, he was a big shot at a record company, a respected musician himself, and even wrote music for movies like The Pawnbroker and In Cold Blood. Even though Quincy's own music was fantastic, it's the albums he produced for others, especially Michael Jackson's Off the Wall and Thriller, that really made him a legend. These albums are like untouchable classics. In the 80s and 90s, he went on to produce movies and TV shows too, and did a great job with those as well. On top of all that, he's also done a lot of charity work in recent years. Quincy's love for music and entertainment, his many talents, and all the amazing things he's achieved make him a true giant of American culture for the past 50 years. In January 2022, Jones appeared on the album Dawn FM by Canadian singer The Weeknd, performing a monologue in the 6th track, A Tale by Quincy. He is now 91 years old. Number 4. Dionne Warwick. As the voice of some of Burt Bacharach and Hal David's best songs in the 1960s, Dionne Warwick became a pop icon of the era with a cool, classy style and plenty of pure vocal power. Born in New Jersey in 1940, she actually started singing gospel with her family. Warwick later sang backup for other singers, which is how she caught the eye of a famous songwriting team, Burt Bacharach and Hal David. They loved her voice and wrote amazing songs just for her. Her first hit with them, Don't Make Me Over in 1962, was a big deal for both Warwick and the songwriters. They went on to create many more hits together that defined the music of the 60s. In the early 70s, her songwriting dream team with Burt Bacharach went their separate ways. While her career took a dip, she still managed to belt out a few big hits in the decade, like Then Came You with the Spinners and the emotional powerhouse I'll Never Love This Way Again. The 80s brought a return to the top 10 with the help of the Bee Gees, who wrote her hit Heartbreaker. Then in 1985, she struck gold with the iconic That's What Friends Are For, a song co-written by her old partner Bacharach, proving sometimes even breakups can lead to beautiful music. The 90s saw a bit of a detour with her hosting gigs for the Psychic Friends Network, but through it all, Dionne never stopped performing and recording new music, staying active well into the 2010s. She is now 83 years old. Number 5. Patti LaBelle. An R&B diva for over 4 decades, Patti LaBelle's multi-octave voice, which could soar from a funky roar to an ear-piercing soprano within the same song, was the anchor behind a string of chart-topping hits. Patti started singing with a girl group when she was a teenager in Philadelphia. They went through a few name changes but eventually became LaBelle. In 1974, they had a huge hit with a funky song called Lady Marmalade. The group broke up a few years later, but Patti kept singing on her own. It took some time, but in the early 80s, she started having her own hit songs, like New Attitude. Her song Stir It Up was even in the movie Beverly Hills Cop. Patti LaBelle's reign as a hitmaker continued well into the 90s, but her fame wasn't just about the music. Her live shows were legendary. She pours her heart and soul into every performance, and audiences love it. Some might even say she steals the show sometimes, in the best way possible, of course. In 2022, there was a scary moment at one of Patti's concerts in Milwaukee when someone made a bomb threat. Thankfully, everyone was evacuated safely, but that didn't stop Patti. In 2024, to celebrate her 80th birthday, Patti released a new album called 86.5. That's 80 years of life and 65 years of making amazing music. She even announced a tour to go along with the album. This lady just keeps on going. She is now 80 years old. Number 6. Morgan Freeman. Voice of God or mechanic. Morgan Freeman, the man whose authoritative narration seems to emanate from the heavens, wasn't always destined for Hollywood. Born in Tennessee in 1937, his early life took an unexpected turn when he became an Air Force mechanic. But fate, it seems, had a different stage in mind for Freeman. The young Freeman attended Los Angeles City College before serving several years in the U.S. Air Force as a mechanic between 1955 and 1959. His first dramatic arts exposure was on the stage, including appearing in an all-African-American production of the exuberant musical Hello, Dolly. Morgan Freeman hit a home run in 2005. He reunited with his buddy Clint Eastwood for the boxing movie $1 Million Baby and finally won an Oscar for his amazing performance. He kept the momentum going, narrating Spielberg's War of the Worlds and joining the superhero world as Lucius Fox in Batman Begins. He even played God again in Evan Almighty. From funny to serious, big budget to indie, Freeman did it all. Action in Wanted and tearjerker The Bucket List with Jack Nicholson. He even teamed up with Clint Eastwood again in 2009 for Invictus, this time playing Nelson Mandela and scoring even more awards. Freeman played the president once again in the action movie Olympus Has Fallen, 2013, and made an unexpected but memorable appearance as Ilderim in the big-budget remake of Ben-Hur, 2016. While also appearing in films like Just Getting Started, 2017, and The Poison Rose, 2019, Freeman also reprised his role as President Trumbull for the Olympus Has Fallen sequels London Has Fallen, 2016, and Angel Has Fallen, 2019. He is now 87 years old. Number 7, Robert Hooks. Robert Hooks is a legend in the acting world. Not only is he a talented performer, but he's also a trailblazer who paved the way for more black actors. Inspired by a play, he swapped his life in Philadelphia for the bright lights of New York City. His talent shone through right away, even earning him a prestigious award for his Broadway debut. In 1963, he took a leap into television and landed a role in a drama, but his biggest mark on TV history came in 1967 when he became the first black actor to lead a police show, NYPD. He played the role for a few years, proving that talent deserves recognition regardless of race. You might also recognize him from shows like The Streets of San Francisco with Michael Douglas or even from a couple of episodes of L.A. Law. He even dabbled in movies, playing a character in Star Trek III and a tough private eye in Trouble Man, though the movie itself wasn't a huge hit. He is now 87 years old. Number 8, Stevie Wonder. An American musical genius, Stevie Wonder emerged from the Motown hit factory to reach even higher artistic ground. Born Stevland Judkins in Saginaw, Michigan, he was blinded as a result of his premature birth. Stevie Wonder was a musical prodigy. By the time he was 11, he could already play piano, harmonica, and drums. He even impressed the people at Motown Records with his talent and became known as Little Stevie Wonder. At just 12 years old, Stevie had his first hit song, Fingertips Part 2. It was a fun song with a cool harmonica part. This was only the beginning for Stevie. Throughout the 60s, he kept churning out hits. Some were upbeat and fun, like Uptight, Everything's All Right, while others were sweet love songs like My Cherie Amour. By the time Stevie turned 20 in 1970, he already had 10 top 10 hits. Songs like Signed, Sealed, Delivered, and Heaven Help Us All showed his talent for different styles of music. Stevie even started producing his own music around this time, and in the 70s he would break away from the typical Motown sound and create something totally new. For the rest of the 70s, Stevie Wonder pretty much ruled the music world. He wasn't afraid to speak his mind on social issues either, with hits like You Haven't Done Nothing and Living for the City. He was so respected that when Paul Simon won a Grammy for Album of the Year in 1976, he even joked about wishing Stevie hadn't released an album that year because it would have been too much competition. A harder funk track, Skeletons, became his last hit in 1987. He appeared at many notable events including Michael Jackson's and Aretha Franklin's funerals and continued to perform his classic-era material. He maintained his iconic status despite a lack of new material. He is now 74 years old. Number 9, Beverly Johnson. Beverly Johnson has been a fixture on our screens for a long time. She's not just a movie star, but she's also done TV movies and specials. Early in her career, she appeared in a movie called Crisis in Sun Valley and even got to host a special on AIDS awareness. Science fans might remember her from a program about Antarctica's wonders. Beverly's charisma landed her the co-hosting gig for the 1989 Miss USA pageant. That must have been a blast. The 1990s saw Beverly transition to big screen roles. She went on adventures with Michael Caine in Ashanti and showed off her comedic timing in the wacky movie National Lampoon's Loaded Weapon 1. But her talents aren't limited to one genre. She kept busy throughout the following decades, acting in thrillers like A Brilliant Disguise and hilarious films like How to Be a Player with Bill Bellamy. If you grew up in the late 90s or early 2000s, you might recognize Beverly from the teen comedy Crossroads, starring Britney Spears. She also brought her talents to Tyler Perry's drama Good Deeds. Not only is Beverly Johnson a screen legend, but she's also a theater star now. Her latest project is a one-woman show off-Broadway called Beverly Johnson in Vogue. It's a chance for her to share stories from her amazing career in fashion and entertainment in her own words. She even appeared as herself in a documentary about a magazine called Essence, which celebrates Black women's achievements and lifestyle. She is now 71 years old. Number 10. Pam Grier. Pam Grier was a total 70s icon. She wasn't your typical damsel in distress. Instead, she took on roles as strong, sexy women who could kick butt in movies like Coffee, Foxy Brown, and Sheba Baby. Back then, these types of characters weren't exactly common, especially for Black actresses. Pam shattered stereotypes and became the first Black female action hero. For a while, things were quiet for Pam, but then home video rentals brought her back into the spotlight in the 80s and 90s. Director Quentin Tarantino, a huge fan, cast her in Jackie Brown, a movie inspired by her earlier work. This role was a major comeback for Pam, and she went on to star in serious shows like The L Word. Through it all, Pam stayed true to herself, proving that being strong and powerful can be both fun and fierce. Beyond acting, Pam Grier shows she's passionate about giving back. She teamed up with the National Multicultural Western Heritage Museum to create the Pam Grier Community Garden and Education Center. This awesome project teaches people about organic gardening, healthy eating, and more. The museum even named their first garden after her in 2011. That's a real honor. Grier's story is so inspiring that it's getting the Hollywood treatment. A biography movie based on her memoir, titled Pam, is in the works. And in 2022, Turner Classic Movies even dedicated a season of their podcast, The Plot Thickens, to explore her incredible life and career. She is now 75 years old. Number 11, Charles Stanley Dutton. With a past that could have confined him to the shadows, Charles Dutton rose to become a luminous figure in both theater and film. Charles Dutton started getting noticed for his acting in the mid-80s. He earned a Tony nomination for a play called Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, then showed his range by appearing in the action movie Crocodile Dundee 2. But it was his role on the sitcom Rock that really launched him into stardom. The show was praised for tackling serious topics alongside the laughs, and it even made history by being filmed live for a whole season. Charles also appeared in some movies during this time, including Alien 3. After Rock ended, he stayed busy with guest appearances on TV shows and TV movies. He didn't stop there, though. Charles also tried his hand at directing. His miniseries The Corner was a big hit. It explored the tough realities of drugs and violence in a Baltimore neighborhood. He even directed a feature film called Against the Ropes. No matter what kind of role he played, Charles Dutton always delivered a strong performance. He acted in independent films like Honey Dripper and big-budget movies with special effects like Legion. This guy is clearly a talented and versatile actor. He is now 73 years old. Number 12, Carl Weathers. From Apollo Creed to Colonel George Dillon, and from Chubbs Peterson to Carl Weathers, Carl Weathers enjoyed a long and successful career as a supporting player in some of film and television's most beloved properties, often by following one simple credo: never be afraid to poke fun at yourself. In high school, he played tons of sports, including football, boxing, and even gymnastics. He kept playing football in college and even earned a special award for his skills. But sometimes life throws you a curveball. Carl's football dreams didn't quite work out, so he decided to try something new, acting. And guess what? He turned out to be a natural. He landed some tough guy action roles, which are what many people know him for today. Later in his career, Carl showed his comedic side too. He played a funny golf pro named Chubbs in the movie Happy Gilmore with Adam Sandler. That role was such a hit that he even came back for a cameo in another Adam Sandler movie. In 2017, Carl teamed up with Adam Sandler again for a movie called Sandy Wexler on Netflix. It was a fun reunion for these two comedy stars. Sadly, Carl Weathers passed away in 2024 at the age of 76. He will be remembered as a talented actor who could play tough guys, funny characters, and even himself, all with incredible charisma. Number 13, Danny Glover. Postal worker by day, a captivating performer by night. Danny Glover's life story is a testament to the power of pursuing your dreams. Born into a family of civil rights activists, his path took a dramatic turn on the prestigious Broadway stage, leading him to become a household name. Danny starred in huge action movies like the Lethal Weapon franchise, but he's also done smaller independent films that he sometimes even helped produce behind the scenes. He's worked with some amazing directors on movies like the music drama Dreamgirls and the tough coming-of-age story Po' Boy's Game. You might also remember him from action flicks like Shooter and fun comedies like Be Kind, Rewind. But Danny's not just about acting. He's also a big advocate for social justice issues, especially here in the U.S. and in Africa. He cares about people having fair economic opportunities, good health care, and access to education. In 2005, Danny even co-founded his own film company, Louverture Films. This company makes movies about important historical events, social issues, and real-life stories. They want to make movies that are entertaining, thought-provoking, and well-made. Some of their films have even won awards at big film festivals. He is now 78 years old. Number 14, Billy Dee Williams. Every few years, Billy Dee Williams seemed to own pop culture. From his early film roles to iconic characters like Lando Calrissian, his career was a series of reinventions. Billy Dee Williams grew up in New York City and landed his first movie role at the young age of 22 in a film called The Last Angry Man. For the next 10 years, he kept acting in various projects, but he wasn't quite a household name yet. Then, in 1971, Billy's career took a big leap forward. He played football star Gale Sayers in a TV movie called Brian's Song, and even got nominated for an Emmy Award. This recognition led to more leading roles throughout the 70s. One of his most notable movies was Lady Sings the Blues, where he played the husband of jazz legend Billie Holiday. Billy Dee Williams was definitely on his way to becoming a star. Over the next few years, Billy kept acting, but mostly in smaller roles or quick appearances. Even though he never played Lando again in a live-action movie, Lando remained a beloved character, and Billy Dee Williams a Hollywood legend. He is now 87 years old. Number 15. Diana Ross. Not every Motown act became an instant sensation. The Supremes, featuring a young Diana Ross, faced initial setbacks. In high school, she studied modeling and fashion design, and at age 15, she joined the Primettes, the sister act of a male group called the Primes. The Primes evolved into the Temptations, and Berry Gordy signed both groups to his fledgling Motown label. The Temptations hit it big fast, but the Supremes, originally called the Primettes, struggled at first. They had a bunch of misses before getting a small hit with When the Love Light Starts Shining Through His Eyes, then flopped again with the next song. These ladies were a black singing group with a classy style. They were popular with white audiences in America and helped push for civil rights in a sneaky way. Their music was fresh, too, with some psychedelic sounds on their 1967 album and songs about tough topics like unwed mothers, love child, and poverty, I'm Living in Shame, in 1968 to 69. It's interesting that around the same time, the group's name changed to Diana Ross and the Supremes in 1967. Diana Ross tried her hand at acting in the early 70s. She starred in movies like Lady Sings the Blues and Mahogany. Motown then put a lot of money behind a big movie called The Wiz with her and Michael Jackson, but it flopped. Even though she did some more acting after that, Diana mostly stuck to music from then on. There was a Supremes reunion tour in 2000, but it didn't go well because of arguments behind the scenes. She's had successful tours in the past decade and even started a show in Las Vegas in 2018. She is now 80 years old, number 16. Samuel L. Jackson. Starting out with bit parts on TV in the early 80s, Samuel L. Jackson wasn't an overnight success story. He paid his dues with small roles, slowly building his experience. Then, a collaboration with director Spike Lee on movies like School Days and Do the Right Thing helped him gain wider recognition. He also landed memorable parts in films like Coming to America and Goodfellas, further boosting his profile. But his true breakout role was yet to come, thanks to another chance encounter with Spike Lee. Samuel L. Jackson became a big deal in the Marvel movies, playing Nick Fury. He started in Iron Man way back in 2008 and kept showing up in all the Avengers movies, even popping up as a younger Nick Fury in Captain Marvel. People started thinking of him as Nick Fury for real. He also kept working with director Quentin Tarantino in movies like Django Unchained and The Hateful Eight. And let's not forget action movies. Jackson took on the role of John Shaft in both Shaft movies and teamed up with Ryan Reynolds for some hilarious action comedies, The Hitman's Bodyguard, and its sequel. He is now 75 years old. Number 17. Berry Gordy, Jr. Berry Gordy, a former boxer who later wrote songs, started Motown Records in Detroit in 1959. Motown became a super important record company from the 60s all the way to the late 80s. Berry knew that if you wanted control of your music, you had to own the company making it. Motown had amazing singers like Smokey Robinson, the Jackson 5, Marvin Gaye, and Diana Ross with the Supremes. Their music captured the energy of young people, both black and white, and their songs were full of hope for the future. Even though Motown's popularity went down later on, Berry's dream, hard work, and leadership made it a music giant that will never be forgotten. At the age of 79, Gordy spoke at the memorial service for Michael Jackson in Los Angeles on July 7, 2009. He suggested that the King of Pop was perhaps not the best description for Jackson in light of his achievements, referring to him instead as the greatest entertainer that ever lived. He is now 94 years old. Number 18. James Earl Jones. With his deep, resonant voice and imposing physical presence, James Earl Jones became one of the most easily recognizable figures in the entertainment industry. He grew up in Michigan after moving from Mississippi, and this change was so tough on him that he barely spoke until high school. But Quincy overcame his stutter and found his voice through music and acting. His big break came when he played boxer Jack Johnson on Broadway. He won a Tony Award for the play and got nominated for an Oscar in the movie version. Now a famous actor, he kept working in movies, TV, and theater. Fun fact, in the mid-70s, a young director named George Lucas needed a voice for the villain in his space movie, Star Wars. That's how Quincy Jones, with his deep voice, became Darth Vader. He kept voicing Darth Vader in the sequels and other Star Wars projects for years. His deep voice even became famous in commercials and on the news channel CNN. When he wasn't busy in movies, Quincy went back to doing plays. He even starred in a really famous one on Broadway called Fences. And guess what? He reunited with Eddie Murphy again for the sequel to Coming to America, which finally came out in 2020. He is now 93 years old. Number 19, Bill Cosby. Bill Cosby was a comedy legend for decades. He told jokes, acted in TV shows, and even had hit albums. You might remember him from I Spy in the 60s or The Cosby Show in the 80s. Those shows were super popular. But in the late 2010s, many women came forward saying he'd hurt them. These were serious accusations, and in 2018, he was found guilty and went to prison. Bill Cosby started out as a stand-up comedian, playing clubs and even getting on famous shows like The Tonight Show and The Ed Sullivan Show. In 1964, he put out his first comedy album, and it was a hit. 2 years later, he landed a groundbreaking role on TV. I Spy was the first show with a black lead actor, and it did amazing. Bill even won 3 Emmys in a row for the show. He tried a couple of other TV shows after that, but they didn't do as well. Bill decided to go back to school and get a degree in education. Then, in 1984, he hit the jackpot with The Cosby Show. This funny and heartwarming show featured Bill as a doctor with a big family, and it became a massive hit. It was a progressive show for its time, too. Bill Cosby's career took a nosedive after a comedian named Hannibal Buress made a joke about sexual assault allegations against him. These weren't new accusations. Some went back to the 1960s. Cosby had always denied them, but the joke went viral, and suddenly everyone was talking about it again. Dozens of women, including famous models and actresses, came forward with similar stories. They said Cosby had drugged and assaulted them. The accusations were serious, and in 2015, Cosby went on trial. The trial didn't reach a decision, but a few years later, in 2018, he was found guilty of sexual assault on multiple counts and sentenced to prison. He is now 87 years old. Number 20. Ernestine Jackson. Ernestine Jackson, born on November 19, 1942, is an American actress and singer celebrated for her work in theater and television. With a successful career spanning several decades, Jackson has showcased her talent primarily on the stage. She has appeared in numerous Broadway productions, including Hello, Dolly, Raisin, and Guys and Dolls. Her powerful voice and commanding stage presence have earned her critical acclaim and praise for her performances. That's all for today. These 20 black icons have graced us with their talents for decades. We've marveled at their transformations and been inspired by their achievements. Thanks for watching, and I will see you on our next video.